Hello friends, today I thought I would tell you a story that goes like this. Once upon a time, long, long ago, I reviewed this guy and this guy. And now today I get to review these guys and girls. So as you have obviously guessed, friends, today I am reviewing the rest of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers team, which I thought I would do all these guys in one big review because the boys pretty much share a sculpt and the girls pretty much share a sculpt. And speaking of the sculpt, there's not too much to talk about on it. The arms and legs are pretty smooth and there's not really any details missing. One thing I notice is, believe it or not, the diamonds on the chest, it's very hard to see. I don't know if you're going to be able to see. Yeah, you can kind of see right there. Where those diamonds meet the black on Zach, that's actually a sculpted line. It's really, really subtle, but run your nail across and you can definitely feel it. So it's nice that they actually sculpted that detail because they totally could have gotten away with just painting the diamonds on. And the belt buckle's sculpted. It's not some cruddy decal. So there are nice details, but sometimes there are details I don't like these abs here. So it's not unusual to have a lot of muscle definition on a Power Ranger action figure. And it's not unusual for them to fall over either. But as I was saying, it's not unusual for them to have a lot of muscle definition on the figures, but that's not how they looked in the show. In fact, how they looked on the show is a lot more how these legs look, without muscle definition. And the arms, just kind of plain, thin, and I like that they did that on the arms and legs, but then, boom, you can see abs. Why can't I see bulging biceps and thigh muscles and stuff? I mean, not that I really want to, I wish it was just all flat, but like, those abs are distracting. Even the girls have abs poking through their costume. Well, not really. It's actually way more subtle. They just have these little lines there, and I actually like that. The girls look smooth overall, and the thing about the girls' sculpts is, I mean, first of all, Trini has a couple things up there, which she never had on the show, but I'm glad that they did that because she is supposed to be a girl. And the girls' sculpts are just smooth overall, which I really like because that makes them way more show accurate, and they have tiny little feet, which, I mean, it's not a big deal, but like, the boys have huge feet, and the girls have tiny feet, which is sort of accurate because girls' feet should be smaller. But what's great about them is that they don't seem to have trouble standing up, which I notice with a lot of female action figures. They have trouble standing up with their tiny feet. It's kind of weird how the girls are not shorter than the boys. But, I mean, whatever. It really doesn't bother me. I kind of like it. I like how they have small feet, and I like how it doesn't hinder them standing up. Now, last thing about the sculpt is these things. What's the last thing I don't like anyways? What are these line things? They were not on the costumes. You can see them there on Billy, even on Kimberly and Trini. And, yeah, they're much more subtle on the girls, the shoulder things, but they're still there, and they're still super distracting. Every Ranger also gets a unique head sculpt, of course. Even though Zach and Billy share a body, their helmets are different. And if you ask me, they both look great. I always thought, Billy's helmet was kind of cool because it was like, had this slender visor, just like the, Boba Fett bounty hunters in Star Wars. But, Billy's the Triceratops Ranger, Zach was the Mastodon. Here's Kimberly's helmet. She's based off the pterodactyl, very nicely sculpted. Even those little dots are sculpted details instead of, just painted on decals. Although I'll say this, I mean, I don't know if that's supposed to be like that. The line back there is supposed to be, I guess it is actually, because it follows through all the way over here. Last, Trini's helmet's also really cool because it's got those tiger fangs just poking down the sides of it. Very nice helmets on everyone, I think. Now, a lot like the sculpt, the paint is very good on these, but it's got a couple of nitpicks when it comes to my personal taste. So, everyone pretty much just needs paint applications for the white diamonds on their chest and the colored diamonds on their gloves and their boots, and yeah, for the most part, it's very clean. Like, those are diamonds. What can I complain about? Although I will say, having sculpted lines on the torso, like, sort of gives you this boundary you're not supposed to cross with the paint, and you can see where the white paint goes over that sculpted line boundary back there, but that's really a non-issue, honestly. Everyone's paint for the diamonds and all the details on their helmets, as we saw earlier, is pretty clean. I really have no issues with slop, honestly. They're very well painted. I do, however, have an issue with a missing paint application, and it's really only one thing. It's the belt buckle. Where are the black thingies on the sides of the belt buckle? I mean, technically it's supposed to say Power Rangers in the red ring, but that's way too tiny. Even SH Figure Arts couldn't get it to say that in there. But don't go telling me like, oh, the belt buckle is too small for them to put the black highlights around the red ring on the silver parts, because they're the same size as the red ring, and the Red Ranger does have those black highlights on his. See those little jaggedy things that are around the red ring? And they're not on these for some reason. And this guy's from the same line. So I don't know why that is, Bandai, but that's not as good as your other figures. For articulation, even though the boys and the girls have different sculpts, they all pretty much have the same points of articulation, but not the same range. Everyone has what I assume is a ball joint head, however, it hinges up and down and goes all the way around, but it doesn't really get any side to side, so I'm not sure if there is a ball on there, and if there is, it's not really doing much, because like you can wiggle left and right a little, but it just feels like that's because the joint's a little loose. Then everyone has hinge and swivel shoulders. They can go all the way around, of course, and they can go that far out, almost to 90, pretty good. And for some reason, the left shoulder on my Black Ranger is really stiff and clicky. And the other shoulders aren't like that. But anyways, coming down further on the arm, everyone gets a bicep swivel, double elbows, a swivel at the top of the glove, and 2 swivels around the ball joint in the wrist. So the wrist hinges on this ball joint, and you can get him to move, his hand this way, up and down basically, but then you can swivel it and you can get him to move it laterally as well. So, kind of odd, because sometimes it's a line and you think, I want to move it this way, but no, you got to twist it before you can move it that way, and then you can move it, and then you can do it up and down, but it does work well. And speaking of those arms, if we look at the girls, their arms have what I see as the first improvement in articulation. They hinge and swivel just the same, but they don't have ratchets. They're just normal, which I kind of prefer. And then they have a diaphragm joint that lets them go side to side with great range, and it lets them go back and forward, which is really nice, because the boys don't have that. The Black Ranger and the Blue Ranger have an ab crunch, and that's it. There's no, side to side, obviously, because it's not a diaphragm joint, and then those shoulders are ratchety, so I think the girls are winning so far. But then every Ranger also has a waist swivel. Now the boys can go all the way around. The belt buckle doesn't really hinder it. But on the girls, it does, which I guess is just because of the way the waists are sculpted. Like, it really bumps into it there, and you don't want to... I guess you can technically force it, but then you'd kind of ruin the belt buckle. So the boys can swivel all the way around. Not that you really want them to. I think overall the girls are winning the articulation category so far. Next up, everyone has ball joint hips, which is probably the joint with the most difference in terms of style and range between every Ranger. Nobody can really go that far back because of the butt muscle in the way, but they can all go pretty far forward, and they can go out. And one complaint I have with them going too far out is you can see like the white pegs in there, and I'd say like, why not color it black? Well, the answer is because not every Ranger is black, so mold it in the color that the figure's molded in. That might help hide it a little. And then they have twists at the top of the thigh, and on the boys, those twists are like a separate piece from the upper thigh that's got the ball joint pegged into it, so there's this break in the sculpt. But on the girls, even though they have the same type of hip articulation, the upper thigh swivel is just cut into the thigh, and when it's lined up, there's no weird line there, like there is on Zach and Billy. So again, another improvement on the articulation when it comes to the girls. Kimberly, however, of course, does have the skirt to hinder her, but they put a cut in it, so it doesn't... yeah, it makes it stiffer for her to move her leg that far forward, but she can still do the splits just fine, and the skirt just kind of squishes the legs back into position, so I guess that's a drawback. But if you're looking at Trini, I think Trini's kind of the best in terms of articulation and sculpt and everything so far. Lastly, everyone has double knees that get really good range. Then they all have swivels at the tops of the boots, and ankles that hinge that far back, this far forward, and they also get really good pivots side to side. So as you can see, everyone pretty much came in the same packaging. Let's get a few people out of the way so we can get a closer look at just one of them, maybe Blue, because, Blue's kind of second in command, I guess. You would think that from his color. So everybody gets a picture of the Ranger, the actual Ranger from the show down there, or the Sentai, who knows. And it says limited edition, which, is kind of true, because these guys are kind of hard to come by now, because they're so old. And on the side, if it doesn't fall over, we get to see the Ranger through the window box, and on the back, we get information about the Build-A-Megazord, and the other figures in the wave, and some Space Rangers too, but they don't come with this Megazord. Anyways, let's open it up. Oh no, there's little twist ties. I forgot about those. Yeah, so Billy just had one little sock tie type thing around his leg there, and then he was free. Well, opening the Black Ranger from the bottom wasn't any easier. I'm going to open the rest from the top, but at least now we get to see this cool card art of the Lightning Bolt logo from the Power Rangers, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the original show. Zach didn't have any twist ties. That's nice. Neither did Kimberly. Ah! Oh my god! So Trini did have a twist tie at the waist, and I didn't have to undo it to get her out. Instead, it just broke her in two, but thankfully it looks like that ball joint could just pop back in, and okay, she's good as new, I guess. I wish that twist tie wasn't there. I really didn't notice it. But be careful, cut that twist tie in the torso. So every Ranger had really good articulation, although if I had to pick a winner, I'd probably say it's Trini, followed by Kimberly, and then the guys. And then every Ranger gets so-so accessories. Everyone comes with one of these, a blade blaster, and it doesn't have much paint details, and it's pretty small, and it's made of really bendable, mushy plastic, so it's probably going to be warped like mine is. And then everyone also comes with one of these, a holster for the blade blaster. You just peg it into the side of the belt here, like so. And then that little blade blaster gets to go in there, like so. Here is everybody with the holster attached and the blade blaster in it. And then here's everyone with blade blaster in hand. They all have a good grip. It's not going anywhere. So these things aren't much to write home about, really. Obviously, I would have preferred each Ranger come with their signature weapon, Bandai, but I guess you're saving that for, later sets, so we have to buy these guys again. I mean, at least give us this thing in blade mode or gun mode. I mean, I think gun mode would have been much better than this thing. Thankfully, those aren't all the accessories they come with, however, as every Power Ranger also comes with a Build a Megazord piece. I got this one from the Red Ranger that I reviewed like forever ago. Zach comes with the Mastodon piece, which is the left hand of the Megazord. Kimberly strangely also comes with the Mastodon Zord, which is the right hand of the Megazord in this case, but that's because her Zord was already part of the Red Ranger's Build-A-Figure piece. Trini comes with the Saber-Tooth Tiger, which is the right leg of the Megazord, and it's almost as tall as her. And Billy comes with the Triceratops, which is the left leg of the Megazord. Now, buying these 4 Rangers and the Red Ranger gives you 5 Megazord pieces and the chance to finally build the Megazord from the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, which I gotta say, I'm pretty excited to do, so let's put this thing together. It's kind of hard to shove this up here, but see if I can get it. Oh, well, that pops out pretty easily. In fact, maybe now's not the best time to mention this, and maybe I should wait till I get the whole Megazord together, but a lot of things on this just pop out really easily, like the M logos for the Mastodon, they're just sort of resting on there. I mean, hopefully they're more secure once I get this ball joint popped in, but I mean, we'll see. But like, so far, I'm kind of worried that things are just going to pop apart once I have my Megazord together. I think it's going to be much easier to pop those legs on if you pop the silver pieces off first, actually. There we go. Now we can just slide those on. So maybe I shouldn't have done that. I'm not sure exactly how these, not sure how these are supposed to stay on there, really. I don't really like how these shoulder pieces are on here. Like, I mean, you think take them off to pop the arm on, and then they have this little lip sort of thing. I mean, the lip's really back here. I mean, I feel like maybe are these mixed up? I mean, I feel like a lip should just go in between the crevice there, but there's no M on the other side, and this came with this piece. So I feel like the lip should just slide on there, but the lip's over here. Let me switch these guys and see if it... Whoa. Well, no, that didn't really work, switching them. I mean, it's not really accurate to the show, but at least the M's are staying on the shoulders. I guess I'll take a cut and figure out how to get these things on here for good. So they didn't really come in the package attached like this, but if you can see in there, there are these little divots, these little circles, and it's really hard to see because it's just black and blacker than the blackest black inside. But you see these little divots on the shoulders? They're supposed to rest on these divots right here. And don't let it slide down this way and slide. If you're just trying to pop it straight down, this thing tends to slide around them, and then you just pop your whole arm off when you're trying to do it that way. So you got to get the little divots lined up, and I don't think they came attached quite this way in the package. See, once they're lined up, it swivels. But I mean, if they were attached this way in the package, you're going to definitely rip them apart when you're ripping the arms out. Now this makes a lot more sense. Is it ever hard to pop this shoulder pad onto the other arm, though? I recommend doing this before you pop the arms on, and then just being careful not to pop them off when you're popping the arms on. Haha! Got it! It's supposed to swivel like this once you get it on proper. And it should rest like pretty far from the arm once it's all the way in the up position. Yeah! There we go, that's looking a lot better. So I was worried about these parts on the Mastodon, but they are very firm in place now. You just gotta know how to pop them on, and this is a good looking Megazord from the waist up. Take a look at those feet. Like, that's supposed to be the saber-toothed tiger. That's supposed to be the head and then the feet of the saber-toothed tiger. It's just one big yellow block. It looks terrible. Triceratops is looking a bit better there. I appreciate all the mechanical details in the sculpt over here. It looks very nice, I think. On the back, this guy's missing a lot of detail. You can see on the shoulder pads, for example, when the light hits them, the M's from Mastodon, well, technically Mammoth from the Sentai, they are sculpted there, but they're not painted. There's no paint or sticker application. Unlike on the front, I mean, you kind of cheaped out on us there, Bandai. Is this why you lost the Power Ranger license? Whatever. I mean, the neat thing about this guy is really having an articulated Megazord for once. He has a ball joint head that gets some good side to side. It gets up and down also, and all the way around, of course. Then he's got ball joint shoulders. They can go that far up and that far down, so it's not the best range, but they can go back and forth a little bit because of the way the ball joints actually are. And then the shoulder pads can rotate like that, but I mean, it's not like they're doing that to get out of the way because they're never really in the way in the first place. And there's no bicep swivel, which really hurts this guy, or elbow swivel or anything, but he bends at the elbow, single joint, and then he's got ball joints at the wrists, which are pretty nice. Now, it seemed like he had a cut at the waist because there's a line there, but no, he's got nothing. Below the waist, there are ball joint hips under this skirt thingy, metal skirt thingy, and he can actually move his legs back a little, which is more than the Rangers could do, and he gets good frontwards, actually. Then there's ball joint knees, and they pop off super easily, at least on mine, but they do get good 90 degrees. I'm pretty impressed there. And of course, they can twist all the way around because of the system they used. And then he's got ball joint feet, which also pop off kind of easy. So, I mean, overall, it's cool to have an articulated Megazord at this price point, which is just a bonus figure for getting the whole Power Ranger team, but he's kind of cheap. I mean, if you could get SH Figure Arts, I'd probably go get that instead. Although here's hoping we get some sort of Dragon Zord, because, I mean, I think that would be cool. And you can see he's bigger than the Rangers, but not by much. Although, you know, if a Megazord were actually in scale with the Power Rangers, it would be insanely huge. Anyways, he is just about 8¼ inches tall. So bigger than the Rangers, but not in scale, obviously. And speaking of scale, it's time to look at everybody's. Every Ranger stands at about 6½ inches tall, which, I mean, should scale nicely to some Marvel Legends, except for the fact that these guys are supposed to be teenagers, and so they're supposed to be shorter than like an adult. So, I mean, we'll see how they stack up, I guess. And the answer is not very well. I don't care what you tell me. There's no way you're going to convince me that a teenage girl is going to be taller than Batman there. These don't really fit too well with Marvel Legends scale figures. It's more like 7-inch scale I think they'll fit in well with. That's a little bit more like it, seeing them with a 7-inch scale Leonardo figure from NECA. But I think you can see when I add a true 6-inch scale SH Figure Arts Power Ranger just how humongous these guys are. And then, of course, here they are with their leader, the Red Ranger, Jason. And later we had Tommy, the 6th Ranger, who's green, who later still becomes white. And even though it makes absolutely no sense, here are all 7 of the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers together in one shot. Because you know as a kid, you always wanted to somehow see this happen. And on top of it, here they are with their oddly scaled Megazord that's just a bit bigger than a person somehow. I must say, looking at this epic scene that I've completed, it's hard not to recommend the legacy versions of the blue, yellow, black, and pink Rangers that I've reviewed in this video today. They're not perfect figures, but I think they're well worth the money. Yeah, they've got some missing paint details like those belt buckles, and they got some weird sculpt and articulation choices that I don't really like, but they are ultimately very good figures. And I recommend you go out and get them, that is, if you can find them, because I don't know what it's like where you guys live, but out here it's nothing but like the Yellow Ranger clogging up the shelves. So if you can find them, I recommend picking them up because it's going to be very cool to see how these stack up to Hasbro's Lightning Collection when that comes out. And the Megazord Build-A-Figure, well, even though I think it's kind of cheap, it is nice to finally have an articulated Megazord, and I don't want to pay for the SH Figuarts version and the Solid Chogokin stuff and all of those things. These are awesome figures, I think. They're not perfect, but they are awesome. And if you can find them, go out and get them, because it's your last chance. Until next time, peace out, YouTube.